Today, I want to recap my first semester of my MSW program at Florida State University. I am a part-time student and I'm taking two classes online. So the semester just ended. In fact, it ended for me a little bit early. I don't know if you guys watch the news, but if you have, you probably heard what happened last week. I think it was actually maybe a week from today, last Wednesday, on the campus at Florida State. It was very unfortunate, and I don't want to talk about it too much here, and I actually don't even want to mention the words because I know sometimes videos can be suppressed depending on what they're talking about, but because of that, I think a day or two ago, the professors basically reached out and said, "Hey, you have three options to finish the semester. One, you can take the grade you have and not worry about the last assignment." For me, that was an 8-page paper that was supposed to be due this Sunday. And so you could ignore that and just take the grade you already have in the class. Two, you could go ahead and finish your last assignment. And if that last assignment you submitted would help improve your grade, it would be counted. If it did not, it wouldn't. And then there was one more option, which I don't remember. I don't know, get it incomplete or something like that. I don't exactly remember because I just took the first option. I was dreading doing that 8-page paper anyway. I had barely started. I went ahead and just accepted my grade in the class, which was a 98. So that was a no-brainer for me. But, that was a result, unfortunately, of what happened last week. But because of that, I was able to finish. I finished the semester out a little bit early. But this video is just a recap of what happened during my first semester of my MSW program at Florida State. I am also a mother, a wife. I own a business, so I work full time. And then I did also have time to volunteer in the semester. And this was my very, very first semester of the MSW program. So I have my notes here. All right. One, I've talked about this in another video, but it was a really hard start. I had not been in school for years. I did not know what to expect, and it was just really hard. It was hard to juggle all the assignments, the syllabi from both classes, just constantly having due dates. And so that was really hard to manage. Part of what was hard to manage was also understanding what each professor wanted and my level of effort to make an A. When I first started out, it's just my personality. I didn't realize it until recently when speaking to my husband and my therapist, but I am a bit of a perfectionist. So I'm always striving for that A. I'm striving for 100. But by the time I got, like 2 months in, I was able to gauge better my effort to maintain an A or B. So I was able to bring my level of effort down and still maintain my grades. So I didn't study as hard. I didn't read as much. And then how I studied and how I maneuvered was just different because I'm like, okay, I don't have to do all of that. I was being very extra and going well beyond what I needed to. So after I got a handle on the assignments and what the professors and the TAs, because TAs are a part of it, at Florida State in this program. I don't know about others, but once I understood how they were grading and what they were looking for, then I was able to relax a little bit. And so that helped me early on. But at the beginning, there's I talked about this in another video, there's just an exorbitant amount of reading. I'm like, is this how law school is? I don't know. It is a lot of reading, and the concepts are not hard. It is the volume. And I talked about that before. So if you don't like reading, this may not be the profession for you. Because as I understand, one of my best friends went through this program years ago, and it doesn't stop. The reading and the volume stays at this level, and I think it actually increases the more you go on, from what I understand. Another challenge when it comes to getting adjusted in the first semester was balancing work, balancing family, and just everything else, and self-care, because it's just a lot to manage. I have a son, I have a husband, we had a routine, so we had to change that routine. And so that was just hard to adjust to, knowing, how long I get to hang out with my husband, how long I get to spend with my son before I'm like, hey guys, sorry, gotta go in, gotta study, gotta do this assignment. Work, what I intended to do was do school during the day, and then during the evening after my son went to bed, I would do some of my regular work, which includes just a lot of analysis and reporting. So it's not, I don't know, it's just some of it is repetitive, so I don't need a lot of brain, calories to complete it. So I thought, let me use my fresh brain to absorb this information from class, and then in the evening I'll work on client. That's not what happened. I ended up during the day working on client work and schoolwork, and then at night still schoolwork. So that wasn't what I planned, but that is just what ended up working best for me throughout the semester. What else? I did have time, I only took 2 classes. So I still had time to go out, to see friends, to hang out with friends, to go to events. I still volunteered. And then something that became even more of a priority was my self-care. Now, this was part of just me, but then also it was encouraged by my professors, social work profession. They, even on the MSW website, they talk about self-care and how important it is for helping professions. So this is something our professors stress throughout the semester, and it sounds really cute, but I had to really engage in self-care and not engage in low quality self-care, but high quality self-care that matched my level of stress. So I had to do activities that really filled my cup up. Speaking, talking to friends, praying, journaling, talking to my therapist. Sometimes that meant taking a nap. And one of my favorite bedtime routines was my best friend got me this mask here. It's amazing. So you turn it on and it will play music. And then it also vibrates and it has heat. And so it massages your temples. And so before I went to bed every night, this was just my little sweet treat. And I would put it on. Well, I would shower. And at the end of my shower, I would switch up soaps. So at the end, I'd wash with my regular Dove. And then at the end, one of my other friends has a line of, why am I drawing a blank? Your Beauty, Your Skin. Shout out to Wendy. She has an amazing line of body butters and soaps. And so I got this amazing bar of lavender soap from her. So I would use my Dove, and then at the end I would use lavender. This sounds so weird, but I would just use it at the top of my body so that I could smell it when I lay down. And then I would lay down, and then I would do this face massager. Thank you, Ty. Shout out to Ty, one of my best friends. And so I would use that, and that would just help relax me before I went to bed. So those are some things I did to engage in self-care, which was really important for the semester. Way more than I ever anticipated before I started. What else happened throughout the semester? Throughout the coursework, I really, really enjoyed what I was learning. Learning about disability and learning about folks who have different challenges and the language and how that has changed and the history of social work, and learning about intersectionality and learning about all the different groups of people who are affected by politics, and learning about some specific things about politics and policies and how laws are passed, and the role of social workers in that. And so learning the vastness of the social work profession, to the extent that I feel like I'm like, y'all do too much. You just do too much. It's just too much encompassed in social work, but there are different segments of social work, as any profession, that you can specialize and work in. And so to name a few, you can work for the government. You can work in schools. You can be a medical social worker and work in a hospital. A lot of people who do social work, they end up being a therapist. So you can do therapy. There's casework. You can work in politics and policy, gerontology, and working with older adults, and even rehab. And those are skimming the surface. There is a ton more that you can do as a social worker. And so there's so much that social workers do, which was really great to learn, because I think a lot of people think about social work and they think like CPS or DCF. I'm here in Florida, so like DCF, but it is way, way, way more than that. So I so far have had a good experience at Florida State. I think I talked about it in another video. I also created a Facebook group for our class so that we could talk about our struggles. And that helped a lot, just knowing that we weren't alone, being able to ask questions, being able to check in and see how everybody else was doing. That helped a ton. So far, really good semester. And one thing I'll say about what I talked about at the beginning, which is the unfortunate event that happened last week. Being an online student, I think how they handle it from my perspective and where I am is really well. The first text message I started to receive was, hey, basically something's popping off on campus. And so because we live in America and this is a regular occurrence, unfortunately, my mind went there anyway. It went to, hey, something's happened. There's someone on campus causing trouble. And a few moments later, I got another text message confirming that, hey, we have an active, person on campus, lockdown. And then text after text, trying to make sure that students were aware and that they would not go about and be moving around on campus, and that they had the safe word. And so I think the university, they really did a really good job. I mean, the messages were coming really, really quickly to like stay in place, lock doors, like lockdown basically. And then after, internally with students, we had a lot of messages from professors, messages from the dean, messages from the director of the program, messages from the president of the university, messages from our TAs, and just constantly sending resources for the counseling center, additional resources that my professors and TAs sent out about self-care, resilience, and just how to deal with traumatic situations and traumatic events. So from my limited online part-time perspective, I was not on campus. From what I received was really, really good. I haven't been in this situation before, so I don't know. I didn't have a thought of what they should have done, but what they did do is more than I would have expected. So take that as you will. I feel like the professors cared, the students cared, the material was really, really good introductory material into this profession. So I've had a really good experience. So hopefully this helps you. If you're thinking about going to grad school for your MSW, if you're worried about going to school, working, having a family, this is very, very, very doable. But yeah, so I hope you enjoyed watching. If you have any questions for me, please leave them down in the comments below. And until next time, have a good one.